Be prepared, because what's arriving on May 20th isn't just an astrological shift, it's a spiritual reprogramming. When the sun moves into Gemini, the field doesn't just lighten, it splits. And for those who carry a sacred mission, the chosen ones, this isn't just seasonal energy. It's a call to recalibrate the mind before it hijacks the soul. You may already feel it. The sudden alertness, the mental overstimulation, the strange sense that your thoughts are louder than your intuition and yet somehow disconnected from your truth. This is not confusion. It's a spiritual interface between timelines. And Gemini's duality is about to amplify every inner contradiction you've left unresolved. Keep watching. Because if you don't anchor your truth before May 20th, you may find yourself pulled into a frequency that sounds like clarity, but isn't. This isn't just about thinking faster. It's about remembering who's speaking through your thoughts. There are moments that come disguised as ordinary, dates that pass on the calendar like any other, seemingly quiet, seemingly harmless. But May 20th is not one of them. Because when the sun moves into Gemini, it doesn't just enter a new sign, it opens a new frequency channel. And this one doesn't unfold in silence. It begins with a whisper that quickly becomes a storm inside your mind. If you've been feeling scattered, unusually alert, restless in your body, but unsure of what you're reaching for, that's not distraction. That's the interface opening. Gemini is the sign of the mind, the messenger, the translator between realms. And when the sun lights up this field, it floods your consciousness with signals, not all of them yours. This is why so many spiritually sensitive people begin to feel off during this time. The clarity that Gemini brings doesn't arrive fully formed. It arrives fragmented, sharp, charged. It asks you to sort what's divine from what's distortion, quickly, or be consumed by the noise. This shift isn't about intellect, it's about discernment. The world will tell you that Gemini is light, curious, flexible. But what it really does is open the floodgates of mental frequency. Thoughts speed up. Internal dialogue intensifies. And for those who are attuned to energy, that means you're now sitting in the middle of an unfiltered broadcast from every layer of your own field and the collective. You are not just thinking more, you're translating more data than usual. And that data doesn't just come from logic, it comes from soul memory, from unseen guides, from fear frequencies, from ancestral residue. If you don't know how to filter it, you'll find yourself running loops that feel like truth, but leave you drained. You'll speak before you're anchored. You'll respond before you've even felt. You'll mistake speed for alignment. And that's the trap. Because May 20th isn't just about moving forward, it's about what voice is leading your motion. And if you're not grounded in something deeper than thought, this season will have you chasing clarity in places it was never meant to be found. For the chosen ones, this moment is even more critical. You've been called to carry a frequency that doesn't move with the noise. It cuts through it. You've been asked to walk timelines that don't make sense logically, but feel true in the marrow of your bones. And now, as Gemini energy rises, you will be tested, not in pain, but in perception. The question is simple. Can you hear your soul through the volume? Because this isn't just another solar movement. It's a recoding of your mental field, and the code is vibrating fast. Thoughts will bounce. Ideas will collide. Old stories will surface with new logic, trying to reframe them. But don't believe everything your mind tells you right now, not because it's lying, but because it's still being recalibrated. Gemini doesn't show you the answer. It shows you the options, and not all options are yours to claim. If you've been waking with buzzing thoughts, dreaming in rapid flashes, or feeling the pull to speak and retract in the same breath, welcome. You're in the corridor, the opening, the moment before the real message arrives. But here's what no one tells you. The sun doesn't bring answers on day one. It brings illumination, which often feels like overstimulation until you've adjusted your field to hold it. So don't rush clarity. Don't force answers. Don't try to label what you're still receiving. Let the data come. Let the messages pass through you. Let the confusion rise, not as failure, but as the system stretching to make room for more truth than it's ever carried. You're not being scattered. You're being restructured. You're not being tested to see if you know. You're being invited to pause long enough to recognize what you never stopped knowing. May 20th is not just a date. It's a shift in signal. And the more you chase it with speed, the further you move from the real message. So stop, breathe, listen, because something sacred is already speaking. And this time, it's using your voice. You've crossed into it now, the invisible gate between Taurus and Gemini. But this isn't just a symbolic season shift. This is a vibrational migration from earth to air, from body to mind, from rooted certainty to multi-channel reception. And for the chosen ones, this change doesn't simply adjust your mood, it tests your foundation. Gemini, ruled by Mercury, governs thought, communication, duality, the bridge between soul and story. And when the sun enters this frequency, the mind lights up like a switchboard. Suddenly, everything is information. Every conversation carries extra weight. Every silence feels charged. Every decision opens 5 alternate paths instead of 1. This might feel exciting at first. You may even interpret it as clarity. But be careful, because this is the spiritual test most people miss. Gemini doesn't test your intelligence. It tests your alignment. In a world flooded with ideas, can you still hear truth? The Gemini gateway opens your mind to more options, more curiosity, more movement. But for a soul on mission, more isn't always better. Sometimes more is just distraction wearing a spiritual costume. Sometimes more is a beautiful detour that delays your timing by months or years. Sometimes more is the noise that finally drowns out your knowing. This is the test. Can you stay inside yourself while the wind of everyone else's voice begins to blow through your field? Because right now, Gemini isn't just showing you possibilities, it's activating mental vulnerability. You're more suggestible than usual, more open, more influenced by tones, energies, intentions that don't fully belong to you. And if you don't recognize that, you'll start shaping your truth around someone else's pattern. That's why this season feels different. That's why you're speaking more, questioning more, second-guessing more. That's why your sense of direction feels simultaneously amplified and fractured. The portal didn't open to show you the way. It opened to show you what happens when you lose your center and ask your mind to lead what only the soul can navigate. This is not to punish you. This is sacred training. The Gemini gateway is a mirror maze, and every reflection looks like a possible path. But only one of them vibrates with the resonance of your origin. The rest? They're illusions built from unintegrated desires, collective fear, and clever logic. And logic is dangerous when it's disconnected from embodiment. So if you've been feeling mentally pulled in 5 directions, if you've been craving answers but only finding more questions, don't panic. You're not broken. You're just standing in the field of choice. And that field is asking, will you choose what's real or what's easy to explain? The Gemini test isn't whether you can think faster. It's whether you can listen deeper. Whether you can tell the difference between soul-level clarity and high-frequency distraction. Whether you'll follow the loudest signal or the most honest one, even if it barely whispers. And in this season, you will be tempted to over-explain, to overcommit, to intellectualize your intuition until it loses its softness. You'll be tempted to trade mystery for logic, to rebrand your sacred calling as a plan that makes sense to others. But the chosen aren't here to sound smart. They're here to speak from alignment, even when that sounds like madness to the world. So ask yourself now, am I thinking clearly or just loudly? Is this desire rooted in resonance or in fear of missing out? Is this message mine or something I've absorbed because I dropped my shield for too long? The gateway is open, the test is in motion, and the next version of you is not found through thought, but through presence. Because the one thing Gemini energy cannot override is the soul that refuses to think in noise what it already knows in silence. You've probably noticed it. Your mind isn't moving the way it usually does. The thoughts are faster, more layered, sometimes clearer than ever, sometimes spinning like wheels without traction. But none of it is random. Because when the sun enters Gemini, your mental field becomes a channel. And for the chosen ones, that channel is wide open. You are not just thinking. You are receiving, translating, filtering. And what feels like overthinking is actually a response to sudden energetic input. Information is streaming through you at a rate your conscious mind isn't fully trained to handle. And instead of recognizing it as a download, you're calling it doubt, calling it stress, calling it confusion. But what if this isn't chaos? What if your thoughts are trying to organize a frequency that your body is still catching up to? Gemini is the archetype of the messenger, not just between people, but between dimensions. And when the sun floods this field, the veil between thoughts and messages dissolves. Suddenly, a single idea opens a portal. A casual phrase turns into a code. A repetitive thought is no longer a distraction. It's a loop waiting to be decoded. You're not making it up, you're remembering through language. But this is where the path gets dangerous. Because in a field this open, not all thoughts are yours. Some are residual echoes from others. Some are collective anxiety that your system is translating as personal urgency. Some are fears from past timelines. Some are external projections that slipped through your auric filter when you weren't grounded. And right now, the ability to know the difference is everything. Because the thoughts you believe will shape your next reality. And the voice you follow will become the tone of your field. So, if you've been hearing the inner voice shift, if it suddenly speaks more sharply, more quickly, more critically. Don't just obey it. Question it. Where did it come from? Who does it sound like? Does it bring contraction or expansion? Does it ground you or scatter you? Your thoughts right now are gateways. Each one is an invitation into alignment or into distortion. And this isn't just personal, this is collective. The chosen are often the first to experience these mental shifts because your system is built to transmit, not just absorb. You are the relay point, the one who receives the frequency first, so it can move through the timeline after you. This is why your thoughts feel amplified, not to torment you, to activate you. Your task isn't to stop the mind, it's to discern the signal. Because in this Gemini season, the thoughts that repeat might be more than patterns. They might be unspoken instructions. The dreams that feel too real might be encoded with messages you're meant to carry. The stray idea that keeps returning might be the divine assignment hiding in plain sight. But you won't see it if you treat every thought the same. You have to listen differently now. Not louder, deeper. This solar cycle is calling your mind into service, not as a judge, not as a machine, but as a messenger of a truth your soul already knows. And the chosen ones don't just think differently. They carry frequency intelligence, meaning your mind is designed to feel what's true before it even makes sense. So lean into that. Not to control the thoughts, but to let them reveal you. This isn't mental chaos. It's coded communication. And if you meet it with presence instead of panic, you'll start to see the pattern behind every impulse you thought was random. You're not imagining it. There's a split, a fracture in your thoughts, a subtle war between clarity and confusion, between something in you that knows and something else that keeps trying to override that knowing with logic, with fear, with familiar noise dressed as reason. This isn't overthinking. It's the Gemini split, and it's real. When the sun enters Gemini, the light doesn't land softly. It refracts, it bounces, it multiplies across perspectives, voices, vibrations. And what begins as mental openness can quickly turn into spiritual fragmentation if you don't know how to hold your center. Because now, you're not just processing one truth, you're holding multiple timelines of perception at the same time. And that's exactly what this energy does. It stretches your consciousness wide open and asks, can you tell the difference between divine insight and mental mimicry? Because both will show up. In one moment, you'll feel guided, deeply, intuitively, precisely. A thought will land like a bell ringing in your chest. In the next, you'll feel uncertain, foggy, reactive. And the hardest part is that both versions of awareness will speak in your voice. They'll both feel familiar. But only one is real. Only one will vibrate with energetic coherence, with that internal yes that requires no argument. And this is the split the chosen ones are being asked to navigate now. Not just intellectually, but vibrationally. Because Gêmeos não apenas te oferece múltiplas visões, ele testa qual delas você está pronto para sustentar. Em uma frequência mais baixa, essa energia amplifica a distração, a dúvida, a pressa de rotular o que ainda está em formação. Mas na frequência mais alta, ela ativa o discernimento puro. aquele que vem antes do pensamento. This is why your inner voice might feel inconsistent lately, because it's not one voice anymore. It's a field of voices. Your current self, your past selves, your future self, the projections of others, the fears you haven't cleaned out, the codes you haven't yet claimed. And Gemini doesn't choose for you. It lets you choose what becomes real. So how do you tell them apart? By how they feel in your nervous system, not just your mind. Truth doesn't scramble your breath. It grounds it. Illusion speaks in urgency. Truth moves like resonance. Illusion demands that you act now. Truth says you already know. Just remember. This solar phase isn't about picking the smartest option. It's about choosing the vibration that matches your mission. And that means sometimes walking away from what looks perfect on paper, but feels hollow in your chest. That means questioning the narratives that seem rational, but disconnect you from your body. That means slowing down when the world is pressuring you to decide. You're not indecisive. You're in the field of dual awareness, and you're being trained to listen without being pulled apart. This split isn't here to hurt you. It's here to sharpen your clarity. Because once you learn to feel the difference between inner truth and external mimicry, you'll never be manipulated by surface noise again. You'll no longer need to justify your path to people who haven't felt what you've felt. You'll stop outsourcing your intuition to approval. And that is the birth of spiritual authority. So, when the thoughts get loud, don't argue with them. Don't run. Don't try to outthink the distortion. Just drop beneath it, into breath, into stillness, into the space where the voice doesn't shout, because it doesn't need to. That's your truth. And in this split, that's your anchor. How to stay grounded while your mental field expands. It's strange, isn't it? How you can feel both elevated and unmoored. How the mind is running faster than ever. Ideas, insights, patterns. Yet your body feels distant, almost left behind. It's like you're flying without landing gear. And if you've felt disconnected from your physical presence lately, you're not lost. You're inside the exact vortex that the sun in Gemini creates. Mental expansion without embodied containment. Gemini opens the gates of thought. It stretches your awareness like light through a prism. But without grounding, that brilliance becomes scatter. Insight becomes overwhelm. The download becomes distortion. And the truth is, most people will try to keep up by speeding up. But the chosen ones, you weren't built to outrun the current. You were built to anchor it. And that's the key now, not to reject the mental expansion, but to ground it into the body before it slips away into abstraction. Because the field is wide open. Your mind is a receiver. Your dreams are louder. Your memories sharper. Your ideas more frequent. But your system, your vessel, needs integration. Without it, you'll keep forgetting what you just realized. You'll say things that feel true but can't hold the resonance. You'll know what to do, but feel paralyzed when the moment comes. That's not fear. That's a sign you've left your route while trying to chase the sky. So how do you ground when your mind is expanding like a star? You slow everything down. You drink water like it's sacred. You move your body, even if only for a few minutes, to remind yourself that you live in form, not just frequency. You speak less and listen more, not to others, but to your own breath. You simplify. Not your thoughts, but your surroundings, your pace, your voice. Because every insight you're receiving right now is valuable, but it's also incomplete until it lands in the body, until it's translated into movement, into rhythm, into stillness with structure. If you've been feeling spaced out, overly analytical, emotionally thin, or strangely dizzy after conversations, your field is asking for recalibration. The solar light now active in Gemini is flooding your upper chakras. It's stimulating your crown, your third eye, your throat. But the grounding chakras are asking to be brought along, not left behind. This isn't about being practical. It's about being present. Because presence is what turns a thought into a truth. Presence is what allows wisdom to shape your nervous system, not just pass through it like noise. And yes, grounding will feel uncomfortable at first, like slowing down in the middle of revelation, like stepping into silence when all you want is to speak. But grounding isn't a shutdown. It's a form of sacred integration. It's your body saying, I'm ready to hold what you've just received, if you'll stop long enough to let me. Let your feet touch the earth. Let your voice soften. Let the breath bring you back into your spine. Because the most powerful insights don't stay in your head. They change your posture. They change your movement. They change the way you carry silence. And right now, in a season where the mind is being activated like a superhighway of frequency, your deepest task is not to run with the energy, it's to root it, to become the bridge between cosmic download and embodied presence. Because the chosen ones were never meant to just hear the signal. You're here to become the signal, not by thinking harder, but by standing still, long enough for the message to settle in your bones. What the sun in Gemini is trying to awaken in you. You weren't meant to stay the same. Not in this lifetime, not in this moment. Because when the sun moves into Gemini, something ancient begins to stir, not outside of you, but deep within the layers you've silenced for too long. Something that has less to do with what you think and everything to do with how you listen. Gemini doesn't just illuminate the mind. It reawakens the voice, the real one, the voice you buried beneath politeness, beneath adaptation, beneath the weight of speaking only what the world could handle. And now, under this solar current, that voice is trying to return, not as noise, but as clarity wrapped in breath. This energy doesn't ask you to be louder, it asks you to be honest. It doesn't ask you to have answers, it asks you to honor the questions that won't go away. Because this season isn't about brilliance, it's about authenticity. The kind that can't be memorized, the kind that vibrates, that moves through you as knowing, before it becomes language. The sun in Gemini shines its light not just on your ideas, but on your internal contradictions. Where do you speak things you don't believe? Where do you shrink your expression so others can feel safe? Where do you pretend to be curious when your soul already knows? This energy wants to awaken your inner communicator, not the one that performs, but the one that delivers light in language, the one that speaks from alignment, even if the words come out broken, the one that listens not to reply, but to recognize the divine message hidden in every moment of silence. And if it feels like you've been tongue-tied lately, if your voice shakes or disappears when you try to speak from soul, it's because the system is being rewired to carry a new sound, one that's not coded in logic, but in frequency, one that can't be faked. You're not just here to be heard, you're here to channel, to speak timelines into alignment, to name what others can't see, to carry codes in casual conversation, not for attention, but because your voice is no longer separate from your purpose. But this awakening won't happen through force. It will come in the breath before the sentence, in the thought that repeats until you finally write it down. In the moment you say what feels too true and wait, unsure, only to realize the field shifted the second you named it. The sun in Gemini is not here to give you new thoughts. It's here to remind you that you are the messenger you've been waiting for, not someone outside, not a guide, not a sign, you. And as your voice returns, raw, imperfect, rooted, you'll start to feel the new version of yourself landing. Not the one who speaks to be accepted, but the one who speaks because the silence can no longer carry what lives inside your knowing. You don't need to know everything. You just need to trust that when your voice comes from truth, it is enough to shape worlds. And that's what this solar shift came to awaken. The version of you that doesn't just process light, you transmit it.